You know, I can never understand how some things become popular these days. Take this show, for example. Everyone's talking about this. I wouldn't have expected a show about a police sergeant in Melbourne, Australia would garner much attention outside of its home country. Bluey isn't a show for kids, though, so I don't know why it's so popular with them and their parents. Oh, wait, I picked the wrong Bluey, didn't I? This one's not animated. There, that's better. A show about a family of dogs from Australia and their adventures together. This is the cartoon that everyone's been talking about. It's one of only a few shows from Australia that I've seen advertised in the US. I'm fairly certain it's not the first cartoon from Down Under to be imported by the US, but in looking at older cartoons from Australia, I didn't recognize any of them, so this is the most noteworthy by far. With how much has been said and written about Bluey over the past year or so, it's difficult to create a review of it without making statements that have been made before by others. If a topic has been widely covered by other YouTubers that are more popular than I am, chances are you won't see a video from me about it. If the topic is of interest to me and I can think of things to say that I haven't heard much elsewhere, then I'm willing to give it a shot. As this got the second most votes from people in my poll about my next video topic, it's now my responsibility to give you my take on what's now become one of the most popular preschool cartoons in recent years. So Bluey is a 6-year-old Australian blue heeler puppy who lives in a family made up of red and blue heelers. These are herding dogs that have a high amount of energy, independence, and curiosity. So if you look at the temperament of the average Australian cattle dog, you get an idea of Bluey's nature. This same rule applies to the other characters on the show, who are all based on real dog breeds. Making the characters dogs wasn't a random choice, I believe. I think it's purposeful to the show's themes of devotion and cooperation, something that dogs are known to exhibit. It's also well known that dogs can be lively and enjoy playing, especially when they're young like Bluey. This is why games are a frequent fixture of the show and the inspiration for many episode titles. The games made up by Bluey or her friends and family range from those commonly seen on playgrounds to ones that involve creative roleplay. Games are as much a hallmark of Bluey episodes as the scams done by the Eds in episodes of Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Of course, there's usually a less selfish motivation behind the games in Bluey. It's a perfect showcase for all the wild and crazy antics of these kids and their parents. And I mean wild and crazy. Sometimes it's almost like you're watching a preschool version of Jackass. See what I mean? Through play, Bluey and company often learn about the world around them, as well as many of life's little lessons. Now, shows that focus on teaching lessons have been around practically since the early days of television, and their degree of success and memorability varies. When targeting children, there's a great risk to becoming preachy or sappy when conveying lessons, especially to children that are very young. Preschool shows can easily fall into this trap. Only on rare occasions do you see a show that does not talk down to its audience, and Bluey handles this very well. The lessons in Bluey are often conveyed gradually over the course of an episode's run. Events transpire, and the characters will usually have an epiphany moment where they come to realize something about the situation at hand. With this realization, they apply what they've learned to fix something or to help someone else. I think that's one of the best ways to convey lessons to children. It doesn't take spelling out messages in great big letters to get it across to kids. When they watch a relatable character go through a certain experience and see how they deal with it, kids can often apply it to their own lives. It helps to have likable and interesting characters as well, and there's no shortage of them in Bluey. Seeing as she's the title character, I guess we'll have to talk about Bluey first. I already said that the temperament of an Australian blue heeler is analogous to Bluey's. However, she's also got the qualities of a young child. So, if you look at the temperament of any 6-year-old, okay, maybe not so much that one, Bluey's personality starts to become apparent. Like many young children, Bluey has a seemingly endless amount of energy and imagination, and is still trying to understand the world in which she lives. She often reenacts what she's seen through roleplay to help her to understand an unusual situation. In these cases, Bluey assumes a different identity, whether that be a hotel manager, taxi driver, or most notably as Granny Janet.
That pocket spot, Rita! Thanks, Janet!
Probably the most irrepressible roles Bingo and Bluey have ever played. Bluey tends to take the lead in most of the games and can come off as rather bossy at times. Bingo can probably attest to that more than anyone else. However, her self-importance isn't so high as to make her completely defiant to gentle correction. Bluey will usually accept whatever lesson needs to be learned, if there is one, and she's got plenty of individuals to help her there, like her dad. The breakout star and most loved character of the main cast seems to be the Healer family patriarch, Bandit. He's the adult who seems to have the most involvement in the games that his daughters play. As a result, he's often subject to the most humiliating and sometimes painful moments in the show. It all comes with being a dad, I suppose. While he does want his daughters to have fun and enjoy themselves, Bandit's not a total pushover and does put his foot down when needed. Bandit has become quite an acclaimed character for the series. There are many publications that hail him as a positive father figure and role model to be admired. While he does have a lot of positive qualities, Bandit is not perfect by any means. He can be a bit cocky and sometimes gets the wrong ideas about how to handle his kids, leading to chaos. Every now and again, he needs a little bit of gentle correction, just as Bluey and Bingo do. So he's a lot like a kid in his own way, and I guess that's what a lot of people like about him. Despite his own shortcomings, Bandit Healer, as with Bob Belcher, has proven to be a surprisingly good father figure in the realm of animated dads. Now, Bandit seems to get the most appraisal from viewers of the series, and deservedly so. But I think another main character of equal importance to the series is Bingo, Bluey's younger sister. While she does have many of the same characteristics as Bluey, there are a few differences between them. Bingo seems to exhibit a bit more consideration for others where it can sometimes fail Bluey. She also lacks the bossy and self-important nature that can be seen in her older sister at times. Bingo is more willing to let others lead and watch the fun. Her childlike curiosity about the world is an appreciable aspect to her character. This curiosity can sometimes get the better of Bingo. One little quirk that Bingo has is that she tends to get lost in her own little world and not pay attention to her surroundings. I'm sure this characteristic makes itself known to any parent who has a child under 5 years of age. Like Bluey, Bingo sometimes needs reeling in, but she's never unwilling to learn whatever lesson needs to be conveyed. Of course, to contrast the lunacy, there needs to be a voice of reason or a straight man around, and that role is usually taken by Chile, although Bandit can also fill this role when the need arises. Chile's contributions to episodes are usually fairly small, and she's the most frequently absent of the main cast. But she's far from a useless character. Chile's words to her daughters or to Bandit can help set things right when there are ruffled feelings. Sometimes, the words of a loving mother are all it takes to provide the necessary reassurance to a child. In turn, Bluey and Bingo can occasionally teach Chile a thing or two, such as how to relax and enjoy the little things. Chile may not have the most dynamic personality of the main characters, but she's still a valuable asset to the family in her own way. All in all, the children and parents in the Healer family seem to work and play well together. The way Bandit and Chile get involved with the games Bluey and Bingo conduct is nothing short of extraordinary. Both of them will play out whatever roles they're given by their children impeccably. Occasionally, Bluey or Bingo are able to gain control over their parents' actions in an unexpected way. Either Bandit and Chile deserve Parent of the Year awards for a lifetime, or Bluey and Bingo need to be enrolled at the X-Men Academy. The world of Bluey is not just limited to her immediate family. There are more dogs around here than just healers. Because the Healer family is the prime focus of the series, the other characters are mostly relegated to the sidelines. When they do appear, their purpose is served in reacting to whatever antics are occupying Bluey and her family in a given episode. These reactions can vary. Some characters, like Lucky's dad, take everything in stride and sometimes join in with the craziness. Others, like Wendy, are either put off or horrified by what they see them doing. Hey, it could always be worse. I mean, at least Bingo and Bluey are too young to watch something like The Green Mile. It's tempting to think that these other characters don't have much personality to offer as they make infrequent appearances. While it's true that some of them fall into the bland and forgettable category, there are a few that do have engaging stories to tell. Every so often, a non healer character does get a spotlight episode. Stories that focus on characters such as Jack, a Jack Russell Terrier with clear signs of ADHD, and Mackenzie, a border collie with some deep seated anxiety issues, give us insight into characters that go through struggles and learn to overcome them in their own ways. The most notable among these secondary characters would have to be Muffin, Bluey and Bingo's younger cousin.
What's up with you, Muffin?
She is a veritable dynamo who can't be contained for long. That, along with her loud, shrill voice, make her a standout amongst the Bluey characters. In spite of how obnoxious she's made out to be, Muffin rarely annoys the viewers more than the other characters, which I think is a positive for these types of personalities. In addition, she does give us plenty to laugh about.
Coconuts have water in them.
Although she seems to evoke the spoiled brat character type, I wouldn't categorize Muffin as Angelica or even DW level annoying. Although the color scheme of her dad, Bluey and Bingo's Uncle Stripe, does bear a small resemblance to Drew Pickles. Does Stripe enable Muffin's behavior?
Am I special?
Muffy, you're the most special kid in the whole world.
Ooh.
Yes and no. His two kids, Muffin and Socks, are a bit younger than Bluey and Bingo, so they don't comprehend things as well as their older cousins do. Managing kids this age can be a challenge, as any parent will tell you, I'm sure. In addition, Stripe and his wife Trixie, being younger than Bandit and Chile, are pretty new to the parenting game and don't always use the best tactics or agree upon them. These two demonstrate how child rearing can be a bit of a learn-as-you-go experience. It takes a bit of patience and understanding from both parties, parent and child. You might notice that while Muffin and Socks can be unruly, they're pretty mild-mannered compared to the way realistic children their ages might act. I say Bluey is all the better for it in that regard. We wouldn't want them to act like he who shall not be named.
After tonight, no one will ever again question my power.
Yeah, no good parent wants their child to end up like Lord Voldemort. There isn't a character in Bluey that could be classified as a true antagonist. Sometimes the games they play involve these sorts of roles, but this is only play acting. Conflict mainly arises from negative emotions exhibited by the characters or by the situations that occur. Some characters do have a bit of an unlikable slant to them, but they usually only start out that way at an episode's beginning and learn the error of their ways by the end. Should they appear in any subsequent episodes, that unpleasant aspect of their personality disappears or is toned down significantly. It just goes to show that it is possible to change the negative behaviors of some unruly individuals if they're willing. Episodes of Bluey are not all fun and games. Some are very hard-hitting emotionally. Episodes such as Sleepy Time or Camping showcase some very poignant moments with the characters dealing with some of life's difficulties and tackling the emotions that come with them. Sleepy Time in particular is highly acclaimed for its ambiance and its message. The use of visuals and the sparse amount of dialogue highlight a way to tell a story that seems to be so underutilized this day and age. The inspiration can truly be felt watching this. Some of the influences I detect seem to come from The Napping House, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and The Land Before Time. I think of the latter one mainly because of this line.
Remember, I'll always be here for you, even if you can't see me, because I love you.
I'll be with you, even if you can't see me.
No, Chile doesn't die at the end of this, but the scene is no less impactful. A comforting message from parent to child really plays this out wonderfully. It truly shows the magic this series can have. A stunning moment in a wonderful episode that's brought even some adults to tears. The 28-minute Season 3 closer, The Sign, would also fall into this category. This episode perfectly captures the emotions that come with big life changes, be it a potential move for Bluey's family, or the marriage between Frisky and Radley, Bluey's godmother and uncle, respectively. Bluey's understandable dismay at moving is brought to the forefront and handled with care and tact from the adults, particularly her teacher Calypso, who imparts a bit of wisdom to her in the form of a story she reads. Frisky's reaction, on the other hand, seems to be one of anger enough to cause her to abandon her wedding. It seems to not really take much to set Frisky off, aside from Stripe asking if she'll be moving to where Rad lives. That's my one criticism towards this episode. Frisky's emotions seem to change on a dime, and she just comes off as belligerent and impulsive, so it's harder to sympathize with her than it is with Bluey. However, that's the only weak point in this episode. It still resolves in a satisfactory manner for all healers involved. It rouses nearly every emotion from joy to sadness through its run. It doesn't exactly trump Sleepy Time as an episode, but it's still top 10 Bluey material. Many people seem to believe that shows for very young children have no need to stir up emotions like this. Instead, they seem to think of them as a means to keep children idly entertained while the parents are busy. Not everyone shares this view, however. Railway series author, the Reverend Audrey, put it this way.
You've got to remember, you're not merely writing for children. You're writing for the unfortunate people who've got to read the stories over and over and over again.
Yeah, I know he was talking about children's storybooks, but the principle is similar. Parents are going to be hearing these shows playing around the house non-stop sometimes. To make them solely enjoyable for children would, I think, be a disservice to both parents and the children, who will quickly grow out of them. The Reverend Audrey wasn't the only one who felt this way, as you can see from these two quotes I've put here. There's a good reason why programs like Hey Arnold or Gravity Falls are so well remembered and still watchable years after their final episodes. They didn't limit themselves to just their target audience, but were entertaining and loved by multiple generations. I think Bluey's impact will be similar. The show is not immune from criticism, however, warranted or otherwise. One criticism that I've seen lodged against the show a bit is that it gives kids an unrealistic idea of how much time their parents can spend with them. With how much involvement Bandit and Chile seem to have in Bluey and Bingo's games, it gives the impression that they seemingly are at their children's beck and call at all hours of the day. As such, it's rare to see one of the parents doing something job-related. Bandit has even been heard to remark,
"I'm never at work!"
This day and age, I think it's unusual for people to see a children's show that has the parents involved so heavily in the activities of their kids and not seeing them heading off to the daily 9 to 5 that often. In many cases, I believe the episodes are meant to take place in real time, i.e., the amount of time it takes to watch a complete Bluey episode is equal to the amount of time that passes for the characters in the show. Thus, the episodes often represent only a 7 or 8 minute period of time for the characters. So I think there's reason to believe that Bandit and Chile are still working to earn a living, it's just that it doesn't really happen during the course of many episodes. The show has also been subject to quite a few censorship issues when airing on Disney+. This can range from entire scenes being cut out to altered dialogue. One episode, Dad Baby, was not even allowed to air in the US. Some of these edits are questionable or just clumsy, which is why I, like a lot of other people who've reviewed this show, recommend trying to find the original Australian broadcast editions of the episodes, if possible. Sometimes it may not be, like with the episode Exercise. The very beginning shows Bandit brushing his teeth and then stepping onto the bathroom scale.
Oh, man.
He says. Bluey then pops out from her hiding place in the bathtub and begins asking him questions in relation to this situation, wondering why he doesn't just do some exercise. This led to allegations of fat-shaming, which caused the episode to be pulled and the opening scene cut, all before it ever aired in the US. Now, I find it surprising that this episode generated controversy, because in a prior episode, Granny Mobile, we got this exchange.
$100.
I guess that sounds okay.
Oh, Doreen, you need to go higher than that.
You need to lay off the biscuits.
What?
Yeah, isn't that more along the lines of fat shaming? Nobody complained about that moment. I feel like people had such a knee-jerk reaction to this scene that they didn't properly examine the context of the scenario. Bandit was unhappy with his weight at the beginning, but when he visits the doctor at the end, he's told he's in great shape. Bluey and Bingo had been playing with him while he was doing his exercises over the course of this episode. Assuming Bandit knew that he had to see the doctor at the beginning, I think he weighed himself for health purposes, and his reaction was due to him not being at his ideal weight. It had nothing to do with poor self-image or something of that nature. Bluey wasn't fat-shaming Bandit by asking him questions about this either. She just wanted to understand the situation, which is something curious children will naturally do. Nobody did anything wrong here. I think before we decide to cry out against something and outlaw it, we should make a point to try and understand what it's conveying. I don't think this episode, or Granny Mobile for that matter, were reprehensible in what they were portraying. They both tried to instill good values in the viewers. There's nothing wrong with needing to exercise and lose weight. It's vital to maintain a healthy lifestyle. People needn't feel personally attacked about seeing someone weighing themselves. Alas, this day and age it's impossible to say or do anything without having some vocal minority calling for your cancellation. I just hope Bluey can continue to do its best to showcase positive and meaningful messages to the world without having to cave in to the demands of the wokenuts.
Wokenuts.
Bluey is a definite winner in my book, deserving of all the accolades it's received. I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's impacted preschool programming in the same way that the Beatles impacted popular music, but it's a great show that can be enjoyed by more than just its target audience. Bluey has brought a lot to us that I didn't expect from a preschool show and has proven to be surprising. The characters and stories are enjoyable, and the animation is impressive. Many evocative settings and landscapes can be seen in the series, and there are some nice artistic touches that appear if you look hard enough. That makes it all the more worth watching. To be a show that both kids and parents can enjoy is a feat that makes Bluey a better-than-average preschool show. It seems like there aren't a whole lot of shows like that these days. Striking the right balance for that is not easy in children's entertainment. It requires the right amount of simplicity and lightness to appeal to youngsters, and the right amount of maturity and dignity to speak to the grown-ups as well. Just as children can learn a lot from adults, the reverse can also happen. It doesn't always require a heavily dramatic and gritty setup to tug the heartstrings of a grown person. Sometimes the most impactful moments come from the simplest of places. I think that's the biggest thing we can take away from all this. Funny how it only took a family of talking dogs from Australia to remind us of that.